Hey guys, so basically it's been 2 weeks since our last session. About 2 weeks ago, we were actually talking about the VZ IDE, the development environment within Workshop 4. So basically, I was away for 2 weeks visiting 4D systems at their place in Philippines. So it was a really fruitful trip, and coming back, I sort of developed some really fresh ideas of how I really want to move ahead with the lab series, as well as putting a lot more thought into um, the sort of content that we want to create in the lab session itself. So I am going to dedicate a lot more effort into making sure that you who's learning, who's watching this video, will actually get a lot more value out of each of these sessions, rather than just having a touch and go experience. Although it's true that I am actually conducting all of this with a budget setup at the moment, right? But even with whatever that I have, I am committed to providing the best experience possible. So basically what you see on the screen here right now is what we have created 2 weeks ago. So I am going to continue using what has been created, and I'm going to continue to build on it and continue to add things. And we're going to look at how we can configure and customize some of those displays. And we'll explore some ideas as well. Not all of it will be working ideas in this session. There will be a couple of trial and errors, but the whole idea about this session is that we can explore what is available, and we can talk about what can be done with the VZ development environment. All right, so just give me a moment while I switch the lights in my room so that you can avoid seeing the sort of a reflection that is coming from the lights above. All right. Okay, so I think this looks a lot better right now, taking away the light reflection from the light up here above. All right. So basically, what you see here, this display that I have, is actually from the. Let me look at the box. Is the resistive touch model. All right. So this is not the one with the capacitive touch. Right. I will touch on the capacitive touch display models in the next couple of lab sessions. But here, basically, what I created from last week is basically a meter. Okay, this is done using ViSi. ViSi is actually a purely drag and drop development designer environment, so it's really good for folks that do not want to touch coding. They do not want to do any sort of development, right? It's just slapping the elements onto the UI itself, the environment itself, and then setting up the events and how they interact with each other to actually get it to work. So it's actually quite straightforward. So in today's session, I'm going to talk about a couple of other features that are available with ViSi, and then we're going to explore some of their functions and features as we go along. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start sharing the Workshop 4 IDE. So let me. Okay. It's important to make sure that you can see what is going on. So uh, I am trying to share the screen for the application. The last couple of sessions, I think we did have a bit of challenge as well, trying to share the workshop for IDE. So it'll take a couple of tries for me because I'm using a virtual machine. So being on a virtual machine, sometimes um, the basically Google Hangouts on air didn't really register the application window properly. So I'm going to try again. Hmm. Not too sure why it's not working. Hmm. I'm just going to share my entire screen. Let me do that. Okay, so basically we are going to open up the ViSi-Genie. All right. Okay, sorry. So I noticed that something I said earlier was wrong. I said that we're going to look at the ViSi interface. ViSi is actually a drag and drop plus LDGL development environment. So I made a mistake on that. The one that we are going to dive into for this session is actually ViSi-Genie. ViSi-Genie is the one with the drag and drop. So I made a mistake on that. So I apologize for that. Right. So here we got a couple of things that we can work with. All right. So we're going to go through each of them. So let's remove some of these items that we have. Okay, and we're going to look at, say, for example, the fancy button. Okay, so the fancy button is basically an event button, basically something that users will interact with. You want to perform particular action, right? So in this case, we can set the colors, the font, right? In this case, we will make the font slightly larger. Let's name the caption as Palette Press Me. That's for illustration purposes. Well, I'm basically also trying to look at the screen that I'm sharing, just to make sure that everybody can also see what I'm seeing. All right. Okay. So next thing that we want to do is you can look at the between the properties. All right. There's also another tab which is called Events. Okay. So under Events, you have the option to select, say, the on change. What do you want to do when there's an on change event? All right. Okay, so maybe let's say we add a simple down or angular meter. Okay, where did that go? Okay, so let's go to the properties. One thing that I do realize that I think could be made better would actually be to allow the background to sort of be transparent. You know, like there's RGB, right? But I think it would be nice to have one more option called alpha. So for developers and designers, you can create a background and you can have sort of a transparent background for your actual elements, widgets itself, right? So a proper term when it comes to working with smart displays in Workshop for IDE, they are called widgets, basically. Okay, so apart from choosing individual colors, one of the things that we never talked about in the last session is actually the theme colors. So you can actually set theme colors based on what you want to set, basically for the whole display, all right? So you can set those theme colors. So in this case, well, we're just going to leave it as black for now. The font itself can have gradient, all right? Or if you want to, you can actually, okay, so this background is actually this gradient. So we can actually delete it if we want to. It'll just be a black background. But let's do that for now. All right, so under the angular meter, same thing, there is a on change event. Some of the widgets itself would have two event handlers. I remember two event handlers. So what are event handlers? Event handlers are basically methods, functions that get executed when there's a change in, say, a value, a reading. There's a button tap, by the user. It will actually cause this the value to change. All right, the state of the object, the state of the element, the widget to change. And once the state has changed, you want it to trigger a particular action. So that is what the event handler does, right? Okay. So next thing that we're going to do is we will set some of the properties. Well, we can actually leave the properties as it is, so that's fine. Let's Okay, so okay, for example, let me see color pick. Okay, let's do something a lot more meaningful, shall we? Let's look at okay, so we can create a tank reading, a reading for like a water tank, how much water is available in a container sort of environment. All right, related container. And then we can add in, sorry about that. I'm running on Windows, so sometimes I'm using a Magic Mouse, so sometimes the scrolling is a little bit sensitive. So let's say we want to change. Okay. Let's do something interesting. Let's try a gradient picture, and then we have a color picker. Okay, so let's say we change okay, let's name this as set color. Okay, so okay, so I'm actually trying to figure out how to actually uh, set the color of the gradient background with button interactions. So last 2 weeks ago, when we actually worked with the slider, I think it was this. No, it's different. Right. So basically, this event, for example, these are basically under inputs. Inputs basically things that you can do, like setting, turning the knob and the dial. All right, so let's explore this later on. I'll probably need some time to figure out how it works, and then I'll share it with you guys as well. But I want to talk about the events itself. All right. So there are two events available for this, for example. And say, for example, I add in a gauge. Probably in a real world use case, you probably won't do it this way. The implementation will be quite different. For demonstration purposes, let's just uh, work with this. Okay, so you can see that after I've added uh, the tank meter, all right, so here now I can actually set the uh, value for the tank itself, all right. So if we actually take this, okay, and we will need to take out the SIM card from the program. I mean, SIM card from the hardware itself. So this is a step that you probably need to remember every time you are working with the display. You will need to take the memory card out. Oops. Going to, I will use my memory card reader. Okay, and then we will remove the files that we already have. Okay, so once that is done, once we have the file inside, now we just have to eject it. Okay. Next, we will put the micro SD card back into the SD card reader for the display. Hmm. Okay, it's not reading, so I'll try to connect it again. Okay, so we now have the uh, display. Let me just share the hardware. Okay, so you should be able to see the display right now. All right. So what we have done is that we can set the tank level. Now, although in a real world use case, this is something that will be attached to sensors that will measure the water level um, in the tank. All right, and then there are other things that you can use the slider for, but basically this would actually be the feedback of the data will actually come from those sensors and not the slider. But here we just want to show you a simple use case and example, right, of how you can trigger the events for the widgets itself. Okay, so let's do something a little bit more interesting. We will add the digits. Right? So Okay, so we have some values that we want to display. Okay, so basically, something that I realized that I did not do in the last session is that there was decimal places. So when the input, all right, let's when the track bar, this is the track bar, it goes up and down. Basically, the value was only incrementing in the decimal places. So in this case, now I just want to increment them between, say, 0 and 100. Right, so we're going to link up that event together. So now we can set the event for on change. Say the value is being changed. We want to trigger the LED to increase in value. So in this case, click OK. Then we will compile and load. And then we will need to, same thing, take the SD card out and attach it to the computer. Okay, so normally once you have write the program file to the micro SD card, you'll notice that the display will show you a text that says that the drive is not mounted, but that's okay. It's because that's basically because the micro SD card is not inserted yet. Let me insert it properly. Okay. Okay, for some reason the file has not been read. The LED digits they're not. Okay, we're going to try to load the program again to the micro SD card. Probably something that I did not do correctly. Okay, so I'm just trying to reload the memory card. So okay, let's remove the drive. Okay, let me just insert it. Okay, so we finally got the LED digits up. So you should be able to see it on your screens. Okay. All right, so I know that the webcam sometimes need to focus a little bit. So I am going to try and focus the webcam manually. Okay, so you should be able to see it much better in a short while. Okay, so basically, okay, so basically now if I were to adjust this indicator, it should change the value of the LED digits. Hmm. Okay, that's weird. Uh, maybe because the okay, let's set the digits here. And then for the digits on change, we set the tank. Okay, so I'm going to recompile again. So basically, I sort of realized why it might not be working. I could be wrong, but for the input itself, the track bar, basically the on changing, we can set the digits. And then the digits change, it sets the water tank level, but that feels a little bit, I don't know, from a logical sense, it doesn't seem very right to me. I don't remember using the change event. Okay, let's try to visit the previous project. Hmm. What is this plan? Oh, okay. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna try with this approach. Okay, so it doesn't really work. So that means that when the indicator changes, we set the LED. One thing though, I realized that, you know, if we can make the uh, event selection, you know, sort of like if I want to delete, I can just backspace and delete rather than having to select. That would be a good option to have. Hang on. Technically, it should work though. I'm not too sure why it's not working right now. Okay, anyway, we are just going to use the on changing. I'm going to remove. So for the track bar on changing, we will set the LED digits. So as the LED is being changed, we set the track bar. We set the tank set, the level. And then we're going to try this out. So you can actually daisy chain events, all right, within the application. There are use cases. In this case, it doesn't seem very useful, but there are real-world use cases where you can daisy chain events, and sometimes the daisy chain events will come in handy if you need a particular button to do a particular action, and then an emitter to jump a reading or to reset the reading, and then you need something else to happen after that. All right, so here in this case for ViSi-Genie, you know, we are using the UI basically to set up all the events, right, manually. But what makes it better is, you know, being able to uh, put in the code and to actually control the events itself. And that actually involves using 4DGL. So in the future lab sessions, we will actually look into ViSi, all right? So ViSi, like I say, ViSi is the one that uses drag and drop as well as 4DGL code. So you can have both for greater control and ease of designing. All right. In this case, you know, this environment is basically focused on drag and drop for users that have no coding experience, who are not developers, and they do not want to get into the technical details. So we will remove the files. Let's add it in. Make sure you have the correct drive selected. All right. So once you have the correct drive selected, it will actually show you the amount of memory space that is available. You click OK. Okay, so once that is set, we will take the drive out. Okay, so now if I switch over to the hardware, let me just do that. Okay, so I sort of tested it, you know, because between the the live stream when I'm actually doing something in action, and for you to see it is sort of a bit of a time lag. But basically, you can see that as the value changes, okay, so this is unchanged. So perhaps for the reading itself, we should use the unchanging. All right, so we are going to go back to the IDE. So I sort of realized where the mistake and error was that I made. Okay, so we will go back to this unchange. Let's set the tank. See, that's the thing. I do realize that it's not. Can I select multiple? No, I can't select multiple. So So I think this is another thing that I realized that for Workshop 4 IDE can be improved and done better in terms of user experience is that in a more logical from a developer perspective, sometimes I want to perform a single action, but then I would want to branch out my events to simultaneously update the UI of different components at the same time. So one improvement that I find that perhaps Workshop 4 IDE can be done better is to allow the selection of multiple methods to be linked. Say, for example, when uh, the value of this taskbar, okay, or the track bar, sorry, for the value of the track bar when it's being changed while it's changing, I want to be able to update the LED, the display, and the digit display, along with say whatever else that I want to update. All right. So that is something that I think is a really important aspect of the UI that should be in place. Okay, so this is probably one way we can daisy chain in this particular example. Like I say, this is just an example. And in real world use cases, we probably will not do things this way, but I just want to demonstrate and show it to you guys how the events can be daisy chain and you can actually set the values. But like I say, I'm going to repeat this again. Um, I would recommend, if you learn for the GL code, and you should, if you are working with the displays, or for developers who are working with the backend coding, you should set the event, a particular event to execute. If you want to update the display and make it more responsive, you should execute multiple branches of function calls to update your UI, when you perform a particular action that requires that sort of update. All right, so I am going to take out the memory card and I'm going to load the new updates that I've just created. While I'm doing this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the sponsorship and brand partnership that I was talking to Digital Storm PCs. So basically, it's not a strange thing that I am using the Windows virtual machine running on my Mac. And basically, the whole screen that you're seeing, some of the words are very small. I kind of noticed that as well. I do apologize for that, but because this is the only way I can screencast, and it's 4K resolution, so it might seem a little bit small for some of you guys. And I'm also streaming the HD, so everything is going to be like shrunk. All right. So I apologize for that, but this is what I can do at this point. And then, I'm speaking to Digital Storm PCs to sort of like hoping we can set up a partnership with them so they can actually sponsor us a research and development product video production workstation, because they have the setup and the hardware and everything that is needed. So I've reached out to the marketing team, and hopefully, they'll get back to us with a response. They'll get back to me with a response, and if we can get the sponsorship from them, it will really be very good for the whole entire lab series, because the hardware for digital storms will be able to support every single thing. I would say that it's future proof for the kind of quality and live streaming experience that we want to create for people who is learning and watching us live in the future as well. So whatever we have here right now is really the minimum setup that I can think of based on the standard that I want to provide. But yeah, this is the starting point for me. All right, so okay, let's get back to loading up the program. So the more you do this, you realize that steps are actually pretty much the same. So it's going to be quite straightforward and easy to do it as you get more familiar with it. So let's, because I'm using a webcam on a tripod that is sort of comes with a package, the best way to use it is that it's a bit low, so sometimes it sort of get tangles with the FFC cable. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so you can see the hardware. Okay, I realized that it doesn't work. The method I just created didn't work. So I can use on changing to set the LED. Maybe on changing, I will set the tank. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing. When I can't set the digit with the on changing, so this is a downside. This is something that is a flaw, and I think it really has to be improved on. It's something that needs to be done and changed. All right. But yeah, so basically, oh well, let's change the. I'm just going to use the on change event. And then for the tank, when it's changed, we'll set the LED value. So in this case, at least before they improve the LED, they improve the workshop for ID experience for setting up the events, the daisy chaining of events, the chaining of events. While they are doing that, I think one way that we can do a workaround is that you can actually, I need to share my screen. Okay, so one tip I can share, a workaround for this is that when the track bar is changing, you can trigger your displays, your any other display elements that you want to show a real-time change. And then, the trick is that for any wordings and LED number digit displays, you probably can update it as a last element to update. So you sort of like in an event, right? You have a sort of like A, B, C, D sort of task that you want to do. So for the digits, the LED digits, I'll probably recommend that you put it as the last item to update. Because anyway, in the real world environment, the processes work very fast. All these small little calculations and movements should be very responsive. And so far, using the UI itself, I can see that it's actually quite responsive. So that should be fine. Okay, so like I say, I'm just going to repeat quickly. If you want to do an event, ViSi-Genie event, um, set your input to update any other elements that you have on your display first before updating the text and the digits, right? So let's compile and load it. Okay, now we can. Okay, so for this demonstration, I think the only thing that we can do is only when the value is changed, you will update the digits. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, so you can see that I'm actually playing with the display right now, trying to get the display into the different, showing the different values, right? And of course, at the top, it will display 100. Okay, so not the kind of responsiveness I was hoping to achieve, but I guess, in this in this setting, there's what I can do with this display. So one of the things that I will do in the future lab sessions is that I also want to um, start using the small little breakout pins. So I'm going to take the cable. I'm just going to show you this for the UPA, the Universal Programming Adapter. So I actually did a lot of research on this over the weekend recently because I was mentioning at the beginning of this lab session, for a lot of the lab content that we are creating, that I'm creating, I want to make sure that it's value adding. So it's important to ensure that you actually get to learn something meaningful from it. Let me see if I can focus the display on the UPA. Okay, so for this UPA, if I remember correctly, the larger rectangle is basically the GPIO for the breakout, yeah, for Gen 4. So you will be able to see that, okay, so let's use some light. You should be able to see the display saying that it's for Gen 4 ULCD, right? So there are some pins, like the 5 pins on the bottom right. That is actually for you to connect for your micro LCD OLED. Yeah, of course, let me see. Okay, so these 14 pins are actually meant for controlling the input output, analog signals, analog input as well. So you use that. This, however, is actually for the IOD display, which is the Internet of Displays. Basically, they are smart displays with the ESP8266 already embedded. So um, that is for controlling the display, right? So we are going to put this onto a breadboard, right? And then, next couple of sessions, we're going to talk about how we can actually send analog signals to this and then trigger the display itself, all right? And likewise, as we have events, things changing here, we're going to try and send the signal out, and then we were going to cause, say, an LED to light up and so on. So those are the things that we're going to do in the next couple of sessions, lab sessions, right? So for this session, we will end it here for now, all right? And I'm going to try and cover a lot more in the next session, and then we'll explore a lot more content. And we're going to talk about also some of the pro features that are available with Workshop 4 IDE. The pro features being like the smart widgets, right? We have the smart knob, right? We also have the smart slider. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about. And I believe there's a tab item for Magic. I think the Magic is also, if I remember correctly, is under the Pro features. Now, it's good to highlight at this point that Workshop 4 IDE also comes as a free software. So if you bought their displays, the hardware, all right, you don't have to worry about, needing to spend money to get the Pro version. For a lot of the I mean, honestly speaking, as a developer, an implementer, right, and a maker, they then making the Workshop 4 ID free as an option for developers is a really good thing. So, unless you really need to customize your DAOs, you really need to customize the inputs and so on and so forth, then I would recommend getting the paid version, right? Yeah, so that's about it for this session. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to watch the video. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about your experience using ViSi-Genie. All right, so let me know about your experience using ViSi-Genie, and what do you think can be done better? What do you think they have done right? And share with me about what your thoughts and feedbacks are about the IDE. Now, I certainly have my own thoughts and ideas as well. Like I said earlier, I think that there are some things that can be done better for ViSi-Genie. And I would obviously, feedback to the team as well. And I hope that they will look into it to actually improve it in the future updates as well. All right. So thank you very much, guys. Till next week. I'll see you again, same time. All right, 11 p.m. SGD. So wherever you are, in your time zone. All right. I'll see you again next week. Right. Bye.